In this video, I'm picking out some of my favorite cars from the Mecum Kissimmee auction. Some of them have cool history, some of them have cool options, some of them are just plain cool race cars. So let's get into the action, and if you want to see more, obviously Mecum Auctions does a great job of coverage. They have live coverage here on YouTube, as well as produced pieces on TV. I'm going to kick this off with a tried and true Yenko 69 Camaro. Now they made 201 of these Yenko Camaros in 69, but this one's special because it's the first one. It's a prototype, a pilot test car, whatever you want to call it. This is the #1 car for 1969, and the special part of these Yenko cars is that they had Copo components. So these were specially ordered cars. This one happens to be a Copo 9561, which means the L72 427, 425 horse, big block engine. It has the sports car conversion package, and it's one of only 10 Yenkos in Olympic gold. This car has been restored beautifully back to its showroom status. You can see that it has American 5-spoke wheels on it. It has a set of raised white letter Goodyear tires on it, and that's what it would have come with from Yenko. This thing also has a little bit of drag racing history in the late 60s and early 70s, but it's been restored back to that stock configuration. This thing has been all over the country at various shows, and it's been featured in a lot of different magazines. So I'm sure it's going to bring big money, being that it's a pilot car, #1 production out of that 201 cars produced by Yenko. A very cool piece of Chevrolet history. Even though there are tons of exotic Ferraris and other classic sports cars available at the Mecum Kissimmee auction, I'm staying out of the weeds when it comes to that stuff. I'm sticking with the American cars, and in terms of American cars, the Ford GT40 is at the top of the list for basically everybody. These things were heavily engineered, these things were extremely fast, and they went up against those giants like Ferrari and all the other big exotic companies at the time, and they won. And this was an extremely rare car from the get-go. It's one of only 48 GT40 Mark I race coupes produced, and it's one of only 2 that have been driven by Carroll Shelby. So that's a pretty cool nugget to go along with this car's heavily documented history. This car has a 289 cubic inch V8, not a big block, not anything crazy in terms of horsepower, but they had a lot of great parts and pieces that were all engineered to work together. And what's cool about this car is that it doesn't have magnesium Halobrand wheels like you see on all the other GT40s. This thing has a set of laced up wire wheels with knockoff hubs, vintage Goodyear rubber. I mean, this thing is killer. This car has tons of history, tons of wow factor, and I'm sure it's going to bring multiple millions of dollars because it's such a nice piece. Alright, here's another GT40. This time it's one of the later cars, a Mark II, and there's only 11 of these things built, and only about 9 of them are known to exist, or at least be intact today. And this one's even more special than that because it is a factory lightweight car. That means that it used thinner gauge metal for the body, it has a lightweight chassis, and because of that it has adjustable suspension. Only 3 of these things were produced, and this one is a beautiful example. This car was owned by Ford Motor Company until 1977, and it's had 4 different owners since then. I'm sure this thing's going to bring huge money because it's so rare and so special, but just looking at the appearance of this car, it's hard to argue with this being the most incredible American race car ever built. Now here's one that got my attention, and this thing has actually already crossed the block and sold, and it sold for cheap. $15,950 was the hammer price on this truck. It's a 36 Ford custom pickup, and this thing was showcased at the 1969 Detroit Autorama. So this was a show truck back in the late 60s, and it's really neat because it has a 371 cubic inch Oldsmobile J2 tri-power engine that's from 1957, and it's got some period correct speed parts like Offenhauser valve covers, and this thing is just plain cool. It has custom paint work, it's got those 5-spoke wheels, it's got a cool stance, and it has a custom interior with biscuit pleating, black Naugahyde of course. This thing is just a cool piece of hot rodding and street rodding history. It was built by Jim McFall back in the day, and somebody got a great deal on this historic hot rod. The Mopar craze has always fascinated me because they've been able to document a lot of extremely rare cars, and this is a great example. This is a 1969 Dodge Coronet RT convertible, which is rare enough to begin with, but it has the 426 Hemi 425 horsepower, and it's a 4-speed manual transmission. This is one of only 4 produced in this configuration, and I'm sure it's the only one with this color combination and all the other options that it has. It's got bright turquoise paint with white stripe and white roof. You can see the body color steel wheels with dog dish caps. That was a Hemi thing. Those are 15-inch wheels, red line bi-ply tires. This thing has all the right equipment to be a 100% accurate restoration. This car was sold new at White Bear Dodge in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm sure it'll find a new owner soon. Now, I love old drag cars, and this is a great one. This is an '84 Camaro Pro Stock car, and this is a famous one because it's that rare Morrison sponsorship. Lee Shepard drove this car, and this thing is beautiful. It has an excellent stance. You can see that it's pretty much period correct here. It does have some updated tires on it, but other than that, this thing looks just like it did when it won the '84 NHRA and IHRA championship in Pro Stock. This thing has a killer 498 cubic inch rare Morrison big block, and you can see it's dressed in period correct attire. It's got gold anodized Moroso valve covers, huge headers, sheet metal tunnel ram intake with 2 giant Dominator carburetors on there, and this thing has some great documentation to go along with it. The car looks just like it's supposed to. Fiberglass body panels, front end lifts off. It's got that snorkel style scoop, little sheet metal wing on the back with wheelie bars. This thing has a great look that really embodies the 1980s, and it's got the performance to back it up. Now here's a cool one. This is a 1966 Ford Bronco, and these things bring huge, crazy money at auctions, but it's usually when they're either restored or maybe lightly customized. But this one is not lightly customized. It is a full-on sand drag truck. And this thing's got a cool look to it. You can see it doesn't have a roof or windshield. It's got a custom roll cage. First of all, I've never seen any steel wheels that looked like this with 4 holes in it. And they're mounted to a set of Goodyear Blue Streak Dragway Special tires. These are 1116s like what would have been on the back of a Dragster back in the day, but they've been hand grooved to work in the sand. This truck has a really wild engine setup, and it's not what you'd think. It's actually an inline 6-cylinder, 170 cubic inches. It has a lot of exotic internals, big camshaft, extensive headwork, and a Paxton supercharger that feeds into dual Stromberg 2-barrel carburetors. So really cool piece. I don't know what something like this is worth, but it's really cool to look at. Next up is an extremely cool car. This is a 1964 Mercury Comet, and this is a factory-built drag car. So only 22 of these cars were produced, and they were built for the factory experimental class in NHRA. This particular one is restored, and it has tons of history. This is the Ronnie Sox car that he campaigned in 1964 before he switched over to Mopar in 1965. This thing was the originator of the Sox and Martin racing team, and you can see on the side of the car it was sponsored by Brinsfield Lincoln Mercury in Greensboro, North Carolina, and this was a lightweight car to begin with. These were pretty small cars, and you could get them with a V8, but you could not get them with the 427 cubic inch big block. And these things made big time horsepower, especially after guys like Ronnie Sox and Buddy Martin worked on them. These things were great combinations for drag racing. So part of the cool factor on these cars is not only the 427 engine, but these things had lightweight components straight out of the factory. So the fiberglass body components consisted of the front fenders, the doors, the trunk lid, bumpers, and a fiberglass teardrop scoop. These things were extremely lightweight cars. They also had plexiglass side windows to save even more weight. They had no heater, no radio, none of that kind of stuff. They were stripped of any sound deadening material. They were down and dirty. They were made for drag racing only. This thing has all the right pieces, including an original T10 4-speed transmission, 456 gear in the back. This car has original style traction bars on the back. It has the original lightweight seats, Hurst shifter, all the right stuff, including the tires. These are original style tires, just like what you would have seen in the mid-1960s. This car is restored beautifully, and it was restored by a guy here in Chattanooga, Cale Irwin. He bought this car 25 years ago and went through the process of restoring it, and it is absolutely beautiful. This is a big money car, and it presents well. It's got great history, and it's extremely rare. Here's another extremely rare Ford from the K.O. Irwin collection. This is a 1963 Ford Galaxie 500, and it's a factory lightweight car. So these things were made for drag racing. And a lot of times these run in the super stock or the A stock categories, and this is a great example of that. This one is prepared for super stock. This one has a 427, 425 horsepower combination, high-rise aluminum intake, two 4-barrel carburetors. It has an aluminum case Borg-Warner 4-speed transmission, and it has a special clutch that was developed by Dick Brandon, who was the guy who had this car. He raced this car and sold it for $750 in 1965. After all, it was just a used up old race car by that point. And then it was discovered 40 years later at an event in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. That was in 2005, and that's when K.O. Irwin bought it and restored this thing back to original as raced condition. You can see all the lettering, the steel wheels, the bi-sply tires. It's all correct and it's all been documented, including that side entry fiberglass ductwork that goes into that air cleaner setup. This thing has an original aluminum radiator, extremely rare for these lightweight cars. Lots of rare components, all put together in a historically accurate 63 Galaxie lightweight. Now here's a really unusual one. This is a Hemi Cuda, so by nature it's worth a lot of money. But this one has a really interesting story behind it, as it was sold and exported to Guatemala. So this thing spent some of its life there and was brought back to the United States many years later, but this thing is pretty much untouched, unrestored. You can see the paint is original on this car, and it has some really cool looking slotted mag wheels, BF Goodrich radial TA tires, which are original TAs, not the new reproduction ones now, but these are the real deal from the early 70s. And the coolest part, obviously, is the fact that it has a 426 Hemi, shaker hood scoop, but the fact that it was shipped to a different country with some really rare components definitely gives you a little bit of mystery to this car's history. This thing was ordered as an H25 heater delete, and it also has an extremely rare fiberglass dash with a metric speedometer, which measures in kilometers instead of regular miles per hour like us in America, radio delete with a block-off plate. It has some really odd stuff that leaves you to wonder what exactly was this car used for. It's an amazing piece. I'm sure it'll bring big money, and I just thought it was cool because it's unrestored and has this mystery background. Darrell Gwynn is recognized as one of NHRA's 50 greatest drivers, and he won a lot of races and even won a championship in the top alcohol dragster division. He drove a lot of great cars, and this was known as his last top fuel car. You can see the Coors Extra Gold sponsorship there, beautiful paint work, excellent engineering front to back, and this thing is period correct for the late 1980s. This car won 5 national events in 1989 and 1990, probably the most famous being the 1989 U.S. Nationals, where this car qualified first with an ET of 4.981 seconds, winning the race in the process and setting a national record. Now, if you don't know, Darrell Gwynn was injured in a horrific crash on Easter Sunday at Santapod Raceway in England. Now, his car and his team continued to race on in 1990, and Frank Hawley was the driver from that point forward. And the very first race back after that crash, Frank Hawley took the win. It was in this car, so a really neat piece of Darrell Gwynn's legacy. And when this car goes across the block, all of the proceeds will go to charity. You don't often see boats at Mecum auctions, and this one is spectacular. This is a 30-foot boat. It was built in 1929 to be the fastest boat in the world, and it was driven to 104 miles per hour on the Harlem River in 1931. This thing is 30 feet long, and it has 2 Harry Miller 1113 cubic inch V16 engines in it. This is a spectacular piece, and it's expected to bring well over $1 million. This is crazy. It's definitely not what you'd see at a car auction, but it's a beautiful piece of racing history. And now for something a little more conventional. This is a 1967 Plymouth Belvedere, and I love these plain and simple 2-door sedans. You see this thing has no side trim whatsoever, aside from the rocker panel moldings, but nothing flashy, nothing that stands out, not even a flashy color, which Mopar was known for a little later. But this 67 Belvedere, it is red, it's got a red interior with a bench seat, and most importantly, it has a 426 Hemi with 425 horsepower under the hood. It's one of only 4 produced, and it's the only example in red. This car has 32,000 miles on it. It has the original Chrysler Certicard, build sheets, all the documentation you could ever want, and it's a really cool looking plain and simple sleeper 2-door sedan with the big Hemi under the hood. Now this one already sold. It sold for $79,200 to be exact, but it's worth talking about. This is a 41 Willys Gasser. It has a crazy paint job. Look at all the lace work and all of the patterns, all of the panel painting, and then of course candy gold underneath that's just absolutely popping in the sun. And this thing's got a cool stance, but you'll notice that it has big Mickey Thompson tires under the back instead of the more narrow tires like you'd see on a true 60s Gasser. But this thing has tons of wow factor, tons of cool pieces, including a chrome straight axle, chrome leaf springs, skinny 5-spoke wheels on the front with some Mickey Thompson tires, and then under the hood, which it actually doesn't have one, but where the hood should be, is a small block Chevy with a Dyer's supercharger, 2 4-barrel carburetors, and big velocity stacks. And then of course on the inside you've got a tried and true black vinyl interior. It's got a cool dash panel, lots of cool pieces inside and out on this wild and crazy 41 Willys Gasser. Here's another very unusual car. This is a 1963 Studebaker Avanti, and these things are already a little weird to begin with, but this one has been modified for land speed racing. These cars are already pretty unusual, but this one's even more crazy because it's got that crazy nose down stance to cut through the air a little better. You can see it's got those disc style hubcaps, and it's got soft flat style tires. But the really crazy thing about this car is that it has true Studebaker horsepower. It's a 289 cubic inch Studebaker V8, and it is twin turbocharged. This thing has Arius pistons, Carrillo rods, and it has a factory Studebaker forged crank. It has a custom camshaft, titanium valves, custom rocker arms and other valve train components, and it has Hilburn mechanical fuel injection. It has a Tremec 5-speed manual transmission. It has a roll cage and all of the safety equipment required to run at these land speed events. And this thing actually set multiple land speed records from 1996 to 2009 with a current speed record of 223.238 miles per hour. Alright, I'm sure you've heard of Bill Grumpy Jenkins and his famous Grumpy's Toys drag cars. He had a lot of different cars. He had Camaros and Vegas and Monzas, and he raced in a lot of different classes through the years, including, and probably most famously, in Pro Stock. Now this Chevrolet Monza is actually a Pro Stock car, but it was set up for match races. So it was built as an outlaw car. It had parts and pieces that were not allowed in NHRA Pro Stock. So you'll see the giant hood scoop, you can see that big wing on the back, and it had an engine combination that was not allowed in NHRA competition. It has a 588 cubic inch big block, made over 1,000 horsepower, Power Glide 2-speed automatic transmission, and then this thing had some pretty extensive weight reduction. Obviously all the Pro Stock cars in the day had fiberglass body components and things like that, but this one went a step further. So this thing is known as Grumpy's Toy 14, and it was a mountain motor match race car. Completely no rules, outlaw combination, and it's a really cool piece. I'm really surprised to see this thing at Mecum auctions, and I hope it brings a good number. Alright, now this one already went across the block, and it was an extremely good deal in my opinion. This is a 67 Camaro, and it is a drag car, and it's got some pretty wild components here, and it sold for $12,100, which I just feel like for the parts alone was a good deal. But the fact that it's all wrapped in a 67 Camaro makes this probably one of the best deals at Mecum Kissimmee. Obviously this thing's been sitting for a long time and it has a lot of dated components, so it would require quite a bit of work to make it functional again. But just look at the overall appearance here. It's got a wild paint job, weld drag-light wheels with some giant ones on the back tucked up into those wheel tubs, and then under the hood you've got a small block Chevy with a supercharger on it, 2 Dominator carburetors. I mean, this thing's got some pretty serious equipment, and it looks like the tube chassis has Mustang 2 style front suspension. It's got those wheels pulled way up under there in the front, obviously a narrowed rear end in the back, custom paint work, custom airbrush work on the back, and just a lot of potential for a very budget-friendly drag car project. Now here's one that's a little more conventional until you look under the hood. This is a 69 Camaro, and you can see the Daytona yellow paint, the black hockey stick stripes. That looks pretty conventional, but this is actually a Baldwin motion car. And this one has an extremely rare engine combination because it's built with the LS7, 454 cubic inches, 525 horsepower. It's the only one known to exist in this configuration. It's got an M22 Rock Crusher 4-speed, and it's fully documented with all of the stuff you need to tell what this thing came with from the factory. Aluminum heads, 850 Holley, 488 gears in the 12-bolt rear end. Fly eye air cleaner and long tube headers were part of the Baldwin package, and you can see it has some yellow slapper bars underneath. This is a great period correct piece for the late 60s. Now here's a big one. This is a 65 model Shelby factory stage 3 Dragonsnake. This is a Cobra, but not for road racing. This thing was built for drag racing. It's got a high winding 289 cubic inch small block Ford. It's got magnesium wheels, pie crust slicks on the back, bright yellow paint. I mean, this thing is just too cool. And obviously these cars were built for specific classes. This one for the sports car division in NHRA, and it's one of only 5 built in this configuration. These 289 Cobra Dragonsnakes were extremely fast and extremely rare. You didn't see them that often even when they were new, and obviously now you never see these things. So I'm sure this thing's going to bring well over $1 million, and it has tons of great documentation, not only of its history on the racetrack, but its restoration and the fact that it's built with authentic parts. This thing has a lot of great pieces, and the fact that it's a Cobra makes it cool from day one. So a drag racing Cobra is even better, and I think this thing will be well received on the auction block. Now here's one I've never heard of. This is called the Wingate Corvette, and it's the only known documented example of a factory shop order C2 Corvette. And this thing was built specifically by Joe Pike of Chevrolet Product Promotions for Bob Wingate. Now Wingate led the nation for many years in selling the most Corvettes for an individual, and this car was given to him as a reward for his promotional and sales efforts, and it's a very special piece. It has an L71 427 435 horse engine. You can see the car's finished in Goodwood green with a classic racing stripe down the middle, and it has an extra pair of taillights, but otherwise this thing is just like it would have been from the factory. It's got American 5-spoke wheels with Goodyear tires, side pipes sticking out. This is one of the coolest 67 Corvettes ever built. I love a good pro street build, and this thing has a really cool look, mostly because of that original body style. These Bubbletop Chevrolets just have a cool roof line and a cool body line in general, and this one is accentuated by those huge rear tires, really cool stance, and then that big air cleaner sticking up out of the hood. This thing has a 632 cubic inch Merlin big block Chevy, aluminum cylinder heads, 2 Holley Dominators with that big tall air cleaner. This thing has a Jeffco 4-speed manual transmission, narrowed 9-inch out back with 4-link rear suspension, candy apple red with some custom accents. Obviously this thing has the full pro street treatment. Now I really love this era of NASCAR racing. So this is the late 70s. This particular car is a 77 Oldsmobile Cutlass, and you can see there are some aerodynamic tricks. There's a lot of stuff that's been done to this car that you wouldn't see on a regular production car, but these things still looked like the street cars of the day. And this one happens to be the number 11 that was driven by Cale Yarborough to his 3rd consecutive NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship in 1978. This car was originally built by Banjo Matthews for the Junior Johnson racing team, and it was refurbished by the crew chief Travis Carter in the early 2000s. It's got a 358 cubic inch NASCAR engine, dry sump of course, Brodix cylinder heads, 4-barrel carburetor, Jericho 4-speed. Then it's got that great gold and white paint job with all the original stickers and artwork on there. This thing is just a great combination, and I would expect it brings pretty good money. Now this one didn't get a lot of marketing exposure from the Mecum group, but it seems to be a pretty significant car. This is a 1968 Dodge Dart, and this is one of only 80 that were built with a factory Hemi. So these things were actually sent to Hearst Performance in Madison Heights, Michigan, where they were converted to accept the Hemi engine. They obviously had lots of other drag racing components installed, including a cross ram intake manifold, 2 4-barrel carburetors. This particular one has a Hearst modified automatic transmission, And these cars were known as the LO23, and they were pretty popular back in the day because they were small cars, big engine, they had big tires on the back, and all it needs is a new owner. Now here's a wild one. This is a completely custom fiberglass car that's based loosely off of a 57 Chevy. And this is actually a local car to me. Jim Bryant is the mastermind behind this thing, and he built lots of 57 Chevys, and he was actually the founder and owner of Thundercraft Boats and Bryant Boats, and he was known mostly for his famous soft seal 57 Chevrolet drag car. He had several of those 57 drag cars through the years, and later in his life, after drag racing, he got into building these street rods, and this was his last project car before he passed away in 2023. And several of his good friends got together and finished this car. So this thing has a supercharged LT4 engine, 650 horsepower, four-wheel disc brakes, four-link rear suspension, coilovers on all four corners, big Pro Street style tires and wheels on the back, and then a custom two-tone paint job by Garrett Barker in Dunlap, Tennessee. A lot of great pieces on this car, and ultimately a great tribute to Jim Bryant. Now last but certainly not least on my list is this 56 Ford Thunderbird. Now, this thing has been in long-term storage, it's rough around the edges, and it didn't get heavily promoted on any of Mecum's marketing materials, but it is super cool, and this thing is already sold, and I feel like it was the steal of the show. This is a 56 Thunderbird, but it has a 426 Hemi under the hood. You can see that big hood scoop, and it needs it because that engine bay is full of motor. And you can see some other custom details here, like the rear wheel wells have been opened up and a little flare around the edge. You can see the pinstripe white wall tires and hubcaps, giving this thing a nice mild custom look. It even has a Continental kit on the back, which is not what you'd see on a hot rod style car like this usually. But this thing, you can see the dust is still on it. It's got some serious character, and I'd love to know the backstory behind this thing. Somebody had some cool ideas, but this thing's obviously been forgotten about. It's been left and neglected for many years, but hopefully whoever bought it and got that great deal on it will put it back on the road where it belongs.